soft around the corners, like little pieces of July still sleeping in the dark. Golden light across the bedroom, dust turning slow in the air, and somewhere down the avenue a trumpet drifting through the heat. Your handwriting on the backside, blue ink bending with the years. Half the words already vanished, still I know what they would say. There we were beside the ocean, wind tangled in your hair, smiling like the world was endless, young enough not to be scared. Funny how a photograph can still feel warm somehow. Now the evening spills like honey through the quiet of the room, and those old summers come alive again beneath the amber gloom. Every faded little moment glows softer than before, like laughter trapped forever inside Polaroids left in the drawer. The ceiling fan kept turning slowly, like a song too tired to end, while outside somebody's children ran barefoot through the sprinklers again. And for a second I could almost hear your voice across the years, low and distant as the radio on those sleepy afternoons. Not enough to break my heart now, just enough to make it ache, like perfume living faintly inside an old forgotten jacket. Maybe memories don't disappear, they just learn how to whisper. Still the evening glows around me, blue and gold and cigarette thin, and every shadow in this apartment feels like somewhere we once been. If all beautiful things fade away, why do they shine so long? Like sunlight floating quietly inside an old unfinished song. Some nights the years feel weightless, like curtains breathing in the dark, and all the people we once loved still dancing softly through our hearts. Now the sky beyond the window turns the color of old wine, and those Polaroids keep glowing somewhere deep behind my eyes. Not sad enough to call it heartbreak, not happy enough to name, just a sweet, slow kind of longing, wrapped in gold September rain. Polaroids left in the drawer, still glowing softly, like they never really left at all. Moonlight floating through the curtains, silver drifting on the floor, and your shadow moving slowly, like I've seen it somewhere before. There was ice melting in glasses, soft jazz breathing through the room, and the night outside the rooftop wore a deep September blue. You were sitting by the record player, one knee folded to your chest, eyes half lost inside the music, like the song knew you best. Smoke and perfume in the lamplight, fading softly into gold, while the hours slipped around us, quiet, weightless, slow. Funny how the dark can shine when your hand falls close to mine. Now there's moonlight on your shoulders, pale as waves along the shore, and every little glance between us makes me want you even more. Stay with me while the room is dreaming, while the city glows below. If the morning takes this feeling, let tonight be beautiful and slow. Your lipstick resting on the glass rim, like a mark the night would keep, and your voice arriving gently somewhere between a sigh and sleep. You said nothing for a moment, just lean nearer through the blue, till the whole wide world grew distant, and there was only me and you. Outside headlights cross the ceiling, like old films in black and white, but inside your eyes kept flickering, warm against the silver night. Maybe time was meant to fade inside evenings built this way. Now there's moonlight in the silence, soft as velvet, soft as rain. Every breath becomes a melody, drifting slowly through my veins. Hold me like the night is fragile, like the stars may disappear. If forever lasts an instant, let me spend that instant here. Someday this will blur like smoke rings, floating somewhere through the years. Still I know I'll feel your presence anytime September nears, like a half-remembered record turning low beyond the dark, or silver curtains moving softly inside an old romantic heart. Moonlight floating through the curtains while your head rests close to mine, and the whole exhausted universe seems to finally unwind. Stay near while the slow song lingers, while the final notes remain. If all beautiful things vanish, let this one dissolve like rain. Moonlight floating through the curtains, and your perfume still alive in the air. God, there are nights I still remember, before they even fully arrive, like midnight radio through thin apartment walls, and somebody laughing softly somewhere just out of sight. The hallway smelled like cigarettes, warm rain drying off the street, and the city wore that tired glow only lonely summers keep. You were standing by the fire escape, hair caught gold beneath the sign, one hand wrapped around a coffee cup, one hand tangled into mine. And before I knew what happened, you were singing to the music too, half the lyrics disappearing into midnight blue. Oh, the world felt endless then, white as neon, deep as June. Every window held a story, every rooftop held the moon, and your voice drifting through the dark still lives somewhere in my chest, like the radio kept playing long after the song had left. Taxi lights across the ceiling, old jazz bleeding through the floor, and your shadow moving slowly past the half-closed bathroom door. You said, promise me we'll remember how alive we felt tonight, then smiled in that careless way people do before goodbye. And Lord, I didn't know a moment could ache while it was still happening. Funny how happiness sometimes arrives, already wearing the shape of memory. Still the room glows amber in my mind, soft as film beginning to burn, and all the little things I never noticed then are the things that now return. Your rings beside the sink, your shoes kicked off by the bed, the way your fingers kept time against my arm when Sinatra played. Maybe nothing beautiful stays, maybe that's the reason it shines. Maybe all we ever truly keep are tiny flashes in the dark, a voice through summer walls, a hand reaching back for yours, a slow song at 2 a.m. and the feeling that life was finally beginning. Now every time I hear old radios at midnight, I stop whatever I'm doing, just in case somehow the universe plays that exact song again. And for 3 impossible minutes, you come back to me, golden in the hallway light, laughing before the chorus starts, young enough to believe love could actually save us. Midnight radio from the next apartment, still floating through the walls somewhere in another lifetime. You wrote your name in condensation on the subway window glass, then laughed when the letters disappeared before I could read them back. And somehow that tiny moment still follows me around. Downtown glowing cold and silver, coats damp from the evening snow, while the train hummed low beneath us like a tired old love song. Your head resting near my shoulder, one glove tangled into mine, and the whole exhausted city sliding slowly past outside. There were strangers half asleep around us, neon flickering pale and blue, but the air between our bodies felt warmer than the month of June. Oh, I wanted time to stop right there inside that rattling midnight train, with your perfume on my collar and winter shining on the rain. Every second tasted fragile, like smoke dissolving in the dark, and your name fading from the window like breath against my heart. Somewhere near the river crossing, the lights blurred gold beneath the frost. You kept humming with the station singer, soft and slightly off. And suddenly you turned and asked me, do you ever fear good things? And the way you said it quietly nearly stopped my breathing, because I knew exactly what you meant without knowing how to answer. Funny how the most beautiful nights always feel halfway gone already. Still I see your shadow in the glass, silver mixing into blue, and every passing winter carries tiny echoes back to you. Your laugh caught inside the ceiling lights, your fingers tracing little stars, your name melting into water before I could memorize your heart. Years move strangely after certain evenings. The world keeps turning, people leave, but one small moment keeps repeating like an old film nobody can fully rewind. And maybe love isn't forever, maybe it's just this: two lonely souls glowing briefly before the station comes. Now sometimes late at night I ride trains with nowhere urgent left to go, just watching cities blur themselves to gold across the window pane, waiting for a girl in a dark wool coat to lean against my shoulder again and write her name into the cold. You wrote your name in condensation, and I swear part of me is still trying to read it.
The streetlights used to feel like stars back when nights seemed endless, and every summer carried the smell of gasoline and grass. We were bicycles and scraped up knees, late trains somewhere in the dark, cheap soda sweating in our hands, and fireflies beyond the park. Mothers calling from the porches, screen doors singing in the heat, while the radio from somebody's garage spilled softly into the street. And the whole world felt enormous then, wide enough to hold our dreams, before we learned how quickly beautiful things leave. Funny how the years go by without asking first. Now the nights feel smaller somehow, quieter than before. But sometimes when the wind turns warm, I hear echoes through the walls of laughter drifting past midnight, and old songs through open cars, back when the streetlights used to feel almost exactly like stars. Tommy swore he'd make Chicago, Jenny dreamed of movie screens, Danny kissed a girl named Caroline behind the baseball bleachers in spring. Some moved west and disappeared, some stayed right where they began. One got buried in December before he ever turned 21. And me, I still carry little pieces of those evenings in my chest, like folded photographs forgotten inside an old winter coat.
Maybe growing older means learning how to miss things gently. Still the nights glow softly, sometimes gold against the avenue. And for one brief vacant second I become 17 again too. Young enough to think forever was a road without an end. Young enough to stand beneath those lights beside all my vanished friends. Some memories don't fade away, they just turn softer around the edges, like old film burning slowly somewhere warm behind the eyes. So tonight I leave the window open, let the summer wander in, and listen to the city breathe in like it used to back then. While somewhere deep inside me those old voices still survive, and the street lights still feel like stars on certain nights in July. The street lights used to feel like stars, and maybe a small part of me still believes they are.
Saturday morning cartoon light falling softly through the blinds, and the world still half asleep. Somewhere far outside, the television flickered blue. Across the living room floor, while cereal boxes stood like towers beside the old screen door. Mama humming in the kitchen, bacon dancing in the pan, and the smell of coffee drifting slow through tiny sunlit hands. I remember wearing socks on hardwood, sliding through the hallway smooth, like mornings lasted forever then, and nothing bad could reach the room. Funny how the smallest scenes stay the longest in your mind. Now the years move faster somehow, cold and bright and strange, but sometimes morning light still hits exactly the same way. And for one soft golden second before the grown-up world begins, I can almost hear those cartoons floating through the house again. Dad asleep beside the newspaper, one arm hanging from the chair. The baseball game still playing low from
from sometime late last night somewhere. Outside, bicycles on pavement, kids already yelling names. Summer stretching down the block, warm and wild and untamed. And me, too young to know those moments. Would Sunday feel this rare? Too busy being happy to understand I was there. Maybe childhood isn't gone. Maybe it just echoes quieter. Still the sunlight through the curtains turns the dust to little stars. And suddenly I'm back inside that old familiar heart, where the mornings smell like toast and every hour moves slow. Back before the world grew heavy, back before we had to know. Some memories arrive gently, without warning at all. A certain kind of silence, a shadow on the wall. And suddenly the years between melt like sugar into rain, till one forgotten little morning feels alive inside you again. So tonight I'll leave the curtains open, let tomorrow take its time, and hold on to the faded warmth still glowing in my mind. Because somewhere in the distance, past the noise and passing years, that old television still flickers, and everybody still here. Saturday morning cartoon light, soft as a life not lived in a hurry.
The smell of rain on warm pavement takes me somewhere every time. Back to half-forgotten evenings, still glowing softly in my mind. Cars rolled slowly through the water, neon trembling on the street, while the storm moved farther westward, leaving silver in the heat. Somewhere windows stayed half open, music drifting faint and low, and the whole soaked city shimmered like a dream too tired to hold. I remember running laughing through the downpour with some friends, back when wet shoes and thunder felt like something heaven sent. Funny how a certain weather can open locked up years. Now the rain falls softer somehow, older, slower, dimmer blue. But sometimes when the pavement steams, I still become that kid again too. young enough to chase the lightning, young enough to miss the train, young enough to think the whole world was beginning in the rain. There was a girl in yellow sneakers, spinning circles by the curb, hair soaked dark against her shoulders, laughing louder than the storm. I forgot the sound of her voice, forgot where life took her to. But Lord, I still remember clearly how the streetlights framed the rain around her. And somehow that small moment stayed longer than the rest. Maybe memory keeps the feeling long after names disappear. Still the rain on summer asphalt carries ghosts of old July, tiny fragments of a lifetime passing softly through the night. And for one brief shining instant, nothing's lost or far away. Everybody's still young somewhere, running barefoot through the rain. The years don't vanish cleanly, they blur like watercolor skies, bleeding slowly into each other, till joy and sorrow look alike. So tonight I'll stand here listening to the storm fade down the avenue, while warm pavement breathes beneath me like it used to long ago. And I'll let the old world find me in the silver evening haze, where the rain still smells like summer and nobody's gone away. The smell of rain on warm pavement, and all the old days rising with the steam.
He didn't cry at the funeral, just stood there fixing his tie. Shook 100 different hands and thanked everybody for their time. Old men talked about the weather, women whispered near the door. Somebody brought casseroles over, like people always do after war. He helped his mother with the flowers, carried boxes to the car, then drove home through frozen traffic under silent winter stars. The house smelled faintly of perfume, and the coffee she once made
her reading glasses by the lamp, still exactly where she laid them. There was a sweater on the staircase, one shoe underneath the bed, and suddenly the quiet hit him like a train straight through his chest. Not in the church, not by the grave, not while everybody watched him trying to behave. No, he cried alone in the kitchen at 2 in the morning light, holding one cracked coffee mug like somehow it could make things right. And all the words he never said came pouring out at once to the empty chair beside him that would never answer back. Lord, that's the cruel thing about losing someone. The world keeps moving after that. Next Friday he still went working, still laughed when he was supposed to, still nodded through conversations like people somehow do. But grief is funny when it gets you. It waits behind ordinary things, in grocery aisles and winter jackets and old forgotten melodies. One night he heard Sinatra playing from a parked car down the street, and had to sit down on the sidewalk because his hands got weak. Nobody tells you how long sadness echoes, how a voice can disappear but still live inside your head for years. Nobody warns you love doesn't leave cleanly. It stains the little corners of your life till even silence starts to bleed. And years from now, some quiet evening, he'll still reach for that second cup, still turn to say something to her before remembering she's gone. And maybe that's what love amounts to, not the promises or rings, but how somebody leaves their fingerprints on absolutely everything. He didn't cry at the funeral, not until the house got quiet, not until there was nobody left to look strong for.
At 17 he swore he'd leave this little town behind. Said there had to be more waiting than factory smoke and county lines. So he took off one September with a suitcase and a name, chasing bright electric skylines and dreams too young to explain. Years went by like
passing stations, different lovers, different bars, cheap apartments, lonely birthdays, sleeping underneath neon stars. And every time his mother called him, he said, "I'm doing fine, don't worry," while eating cold food by a window, too tired to even sleep. Funny how freedom can start to feel a lot like drifting. So one night he just kept driving, no plan, no grand goodbye, just headlights cutting through the dark, and tears he couldn't hide. And when the old town came back into view at sunrise, gold and slow, he broke down crying in the driveway, like a child returning home. His father looked older somehow, smaller than he remembered him, but still opened up the front door before he even knocked. His mother held him for a long time, like she knew exactly why. Some wounds don't need explaining to the people who watched you grow alive. Sometimes the world will harden you till you forget your own name. Sometimes healing sounds like screen doors and someone saying, "You can stay." And all at once the years between them didn't matter anymore. Not the distance, not the silence, not the nights he spent alone. Because love had waited patiently, right there where he left it all. And for the first time in forever, he no longer felt lost. At 17, he swore he'd leave. Funny, he spent half his life trying to get back. The television glowed till midnight. Nobody really watched a thing. Mama kept pretending to read,
the same 2 pages endlessly. My father smoked out on the porch, though he quit back in '53. Every car that passed too slowly made us all stop breathing briefly. It had been 3 whole winters since anybody heard his laugh. 3 birthdays and 1 funeral since the taxi took him back. The neighbors slowly stopped asking. The letters stopped coming too, and people learned to speak more quietly. Around pain they cannot move. Mama still set 4 plates some nights, like habit overruled the truth. Then apologized to nobody and carried 1 back to the room. Funny how family survives by learning where not to look. Then at 1:17 in the morning, somebody knocked twice on the door. Not loud, not urgent, just familiar somehow. And my father froze completely, like a man who'd seen a ghost. Before Mama even reached the hallway, she was already crying, "Don't." He stood thinner than we remembered, older than a boy should be, with tired eyes and shaking fingers, and army bags down by his feet. Nobody moved for 1 long second, like the whole world lost its sound. Then Mama touched his face so softly, like she feared he'd disappear again. Lord, I still remember my father crying, with both hands covering his mouth, like all the grief he'd swallowed whole finally came pouring out. And my brother kept saying softly, "I'm home, I'm home," like he needed to hear it too. We stayed awake till sunrise talking, though half the time nobody spoke, just listening to each other breathing, like proof we weren't alone. And years later, what I remember most was not the war or where he'd been, but the sound of our old house that night, finally alive again. Somebody knocked twice on the door, and nothing was ever the same after that.
cut my hair in the backyard. Every summer without fail, old white sheet around my shoulders, held together by clothespins and nails. Radio playing somewhere distant, baseball drifting through the heat, and the whole world smelled like cut grass and asphalt burning in the street. She always tilted up my chin, said, "Hold still now, don't you squirm," then laughed when I'd complain about it, like she'd heard it all before. God, I thought those days were endless. Sunlight never seemed to move, back when everybody I loved still fit inside one little roof. And nobody talked about growing older, or how fast a life can run. We were too busy being children beneath that August sun. Last week I drove by that old house. Somebody painted all the brick. The backyard looked so much smaller than it ever did back then. The clothesline's gone, the porch is different, and strangers sleep in all those rooms. But standing there, I almost heard her calling me in before the moon. Funny thing about memory, it keeps the light exactly right, golden forever, even after everybody's gone. And I swear, for just a second, I could feel those summer winds, hear my mother laughing softly from the yard behind the fence. Lord, I'd give anything to tell her I finally understand. Love was never in the big things, it lived inside her gentle hands. She cut my hair in the backyard, and somehow that became one of the most beautiful days of my life. Nobody's touched the bedroom closet since the winter she got sick. Her perfume faded months ago, but somehow I still notice it. There's a blue dress hanging upstairs, swaying slightly when I pass, like memory still breathes softly inside the quiet of the house. The neighbors say I ought to clear things, time moves on and all of that, but grief don't move in straight lines. It circles slowly back. Tonight the power cut out early, snow pressing heavy on the wires. So I lit the old piano candles the way she always liked, and sitting there inside the silence, I could almost hear her hum that little tune she used while cooking, back when this house still felt young. Funny how love survives in objects long after voices disappear. And I broke down by the staircase, holding fabric to my chest, like somehow if I held it tightly I could hold on to the rest. All the years, the ordinary moments, Sunday mornings, cheap red wine, the way she laughed with her whole body, like she thought we still had time. Lord, nobody warns you how badly beautiful things can hurt. Outside the snowfall kept on falling, soft against the window frame. And for the first time since I lost her, I finally said her name. Not like prayer, not like heartbreak, just gentle, like setting something down carefully. Maybe healing doesn't mean forgetting, maybe it just means this: being able to touch the memory without bleeding from it. So the dress still hangs upstairs tonight, and maybe that's alright. Maybe love deserves a little space to linger after life. And when they finally lay me down beside her someday too, I hope heaven smells a little like that old perfume still hanging in the room. There's a blue dress hanging upstairs, and somehow it still feels like she's home.